Millions of dollars of government funds are missing. The man in charge of fighting corruption is in hospital with 3 bullets in his head. And even the president of this country says that he doesn't know where all the money has gone. It may sound like a political thriller, but it's reality here in Malawi, one of the poorest countries in Africa. For President Joyce Banda, finding where the money is absolutely imperative, as donors like the United Kingdom and the European Union support 40% of the country's budget. I went to the presidential palace to meet Joyce Banda, and I started by asking the president for her reaction to the allegations of corruption.
Yeah, what is happening is that I want to put on record that this is a national tragedy. And I want to say that it has happened for the last 15 years. And that this is a president who has decided that it must come to a stop. And this country knows that in every statement that I made since I came into office 7th April last year, I talked about corruption. But this year in particular, back in June, I started trying to find out, with all the reforms, with all the recovery that we were registering, I was still of the view that there was something seriously wrong, particularly when it was announced that the past president was found with huge sums of money to the amount of 61 billion.
Madam President, how do you feel personally that corruption continued while you were in power for 18 months?
I feel very sad. It's heartbreaking. Everybody around is traumatized. And I'm talking about the controlling officers themselves, and I'm talking about Malawians at large, and I'm talking about us in leadership and my team, and I'm also talking about the donors. All of us should have detected that something was still happening, because I can't say it happened while I was here. It still continued to happen because it had happened for many years. When I came into office, I inherited empty coffers because there was no fuels, there was no forex. So my feeling was that it wasn't going to happen again because Malawians had suffered enough. But we have found that the people in that syndicate continued. So we have decided that we are changing the system, and they are already in place.
Are you confident that these measures will be enough to restore confidence with international donors and that the money will flow again?
I think where we must start from is not the international donors. I think where we must start from is to civic educate ourselves, to ensure that this must stop, to ensure that everybody is aware that this fight is ours and that the donors are helping us. Because if we are not there, then we shall say it is the donors' problem to fight corruption and that we shall not engage. But I think it is also critical for us to find alternative ways of raising money. We cannot sit back and allow ourselves to depend for donors for 40% of our budget. That's not acceptable.
How quickly do you think that you could move away from relying on donors for 40% and going down on that number and maybe at some point not even needing donor support?
We haven't been able to do that in 50 years. We shall be going into another 50 years now, starting from next year. I've given myself 10 years. And the reason why I've given myself that little time is because of the statement that Father San said in 2001, that 30% is stolen. So for me, the first step is the stopping of the stealing would save us a lot of money. So perhaps we could save the 30% through these prudent measures of stopping corruption. So 10% should be dealt with in less than 10 years.
Madam President, you are facing elections in May next year, in May 2014. How do you see the elections coming, particularly now that you are in a crusade against corruption?
Well, I am looking at it this way. This fight comes before my political career. So if I don't win elections because I was fighting corruption, I want you to know that I'm very comfortable with that. In fact, I'll go out a very happy person because I know that I'll be remembered for what I tried to do.
So far, the government of President Banda is taking cosmetic actions, including, as the newspaper here in Lilongwe say, suspending all official travel to save money. But if President Banda cannot find exactly what is behind the corruption scandal and restart the flow of donors, the country will face a severe economic and political crisis. Javier Blas, Financial Times, Lilongwe, Malawi.